again, everyone. Welcome back to Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Charles Skaggs, back in Ghostwood Forest, once again on a very leisurely, sort of semi-spring night, ready to talk more David Lynch films, and a very special one this time with my wonderful co-host, wonderful friend, and someone currently looking at her phone, Xan Sprouse. How you doing, Xan?
I'm good. How are you, Charles?
Yes, I'm calling you out on the podcast.
Yeah, well, I'm having a lot of medical appointments and things.
Yes, you are. You have a very busy schedule right now. Yes, I understand.
I have a lot of medical appointments these days. I am old before my years medically, apparently.
Yeah.
So I was just clicking the yes. I see that this is the 97th appointment reminder you've sent me. Thank you very much for that, Ohio Medical Center.
Just in case you didn't get the first 96, right?
Yeah, in case you didn't get the phone calls and the emails and the pop-ups, you have a doctor's appointment tomorrow. So
yeah. I get that all the time from Mount Carmel Health, so you're not alone. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
They like to do that too. All right.
Yep.
Here in episode 93, we're going to be talking, this is a very interesting one, like I said, The Straight Story, the 1999 biographical road drama film directed by David Lynch. And it's G-rated, and it's released by Disney, of all studios.
It's the only G-rated movie ever done by David Lynch, and it's also the only movie he didn't have a hand in writing. He didn't write any of this. I mean, Mary Sweeney she co-wrote it.
She co-wrote it with John Roach. Yeah.
Yeah. But, when Mary Sweeney is on your project, it's kind of like having David Lynch on your project. They're very close, even when they're not married.
Right. Well, she co-produced the previous story we talked about.
Yep. Lost Highway.
Yeah, Lost Highway. So it makes perfect sense that, she'd still be co-producing here as well.
Yeah, and they work together.
This movie is 2 years after Lost Highway? I believe Lost Highway is 1997, so that makes about right.
Yeah.
But she produced that. Yeah, Mary Sweeney produced this also with Neil Edelstein and Alain Sardé, I'm guessing is pronounced. He's a French actor. I know that much.
I'm not sure. I've never heard her say it.
But this is a very, very interesting movie because this is a true story. Like I said, it's a biographical. And it's very interesting to have Lynch, who normally, embraces such darkness, or at least, explores the darkness and violence. And this movie really has none of that.
It really has none of that. Actually, Richard Farnsworth was not going to do this movie because he'd seen Blue Velvet and he did not like the language in it at all.
Right. And he wouldn't do it. And Lynch had to convince him.
Lynch had to convince him that there is no swearing in this movie at all. That this is totally something different. So This is a departure from what he's usually known for, David Lynch. But this movie proves two things.
Okay.
That both David Lynch and Angelo Badalamenti can do anything.
Yeah. I think a lot of people that see Lynch as this avant-garde director, and then he does something like this.
Right. And this movie has a lot of the same feel of a lot of elements of Twin Peaks or Blue Velvet, where you have smaller towns, the small town vibe, everybody knows each other, everybody's kind of in each, the scenes where all the guys are in the hardware store, what do you need all that gasoline for? Why do you want to grab her?
Right.
And
to grab things.
That's my grabber. That concept of the small town is still there. You can still feel that, but this is like wholesome, on the level people in the small town, and there's no supernatural nature to it.
Right.
There's a supernatural nature to the town of Twin Peaks, and there is a seedy underbelly to the town in, oh my God, it just left me.
Lumberton?
Lumberton, thank you.
You're welcome.
I could hear the song, but I couldn't.
Yeah, I know. See, for once, it's not me having the complete brain fart. Yay!
Fantastic. This is great. I love how this is going to go.
Yeah.
So
welcome to my world.
So is perfect for this movie because it has all those elements, and so you get the feeling that,
but without that seedy underbelly.
It's the opposite side of normal people living in a small town, and that discussion in the hardware store happened in Beaumont's hardware store.
Right.
It's just a different side to a town.
Yeah.
And to people.
Yeah, one of the things while watching this movie, because like you said, we watched this movie for the first time, both of us. So we're
Mhm.
coming at it completely fresh here, even though this movie's, hey, it's been out 21 years,
Yeah,
22. We're a little behind on the curve on this one, but we got there. Just be patient. We'll get there. But one of the things I noticed while I was watching this is like, it's a Disney movie, but it's very much a David Lynch movie as well. A lot of his tropes are there, like the emphasis on showing the slowness and frustration of old people, for one.
right.
It's basically like, at least the first part of this movie is very much like the movie of old waiters from the Great Lord of the...
Yeah,
you get where I'm coming from here, right?
I do, and even at the very beginning, we have Dorothy in the
Yeah.
yard with her snowballs, and
Dorothy is very much a Twin Peaks-like character. She's sitting out there, she's pounding away on these snowballs, and the snack, not the actual snowballs.
right, little pink.
She's out there. She's got her like 50s style sunglasses on, trying to tan herself on a lawn chair. And that's another Lynch trope, because we saw like people just laying out in the yard in like deck chairs and whatnot in Blue Velvet with Kyle MacLachlan's character Jeffrey Beaumont, and then also recently in Lost Highway with Bill Pullman's character. So it's something he likes, the idea of like people just hang out in their yards, laying around, enjoying the day, a nice sunny day.
And that's one of the great things about this movie is that I do, as much as I love weird stories or science fiction stories or mysteries or thrillers, I also love slow moving stories about just people.
Yeah.
That there's nothing spectacular going on around them. It's just about people. An example of that you may have seen, Charles. Have you ever seen the Station Agent?
No, but I know of it. I haven't seen it.
Okay,
though.
Station Agent is kind of like that.
This was his Dinklage's breakthrough movie, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, Peter Dinklage he's a train enthusiast, and the guy that owns the train store that he works at leaves him this old building where the station agent used to live. So he goes and lives there, and it's a small town, and he meets the people, and it's just how their friendships grow, what they do in their everyday. It's a very slow, interesting movie just about people, and this is one of those that's like that, where you just have, he's a retired truck driver who lives with his daughter who has some sort of
mental difficulty,
mental something.
Some might call her slow, essentially, yes.
And unfortunately, that had her kids taken away after a fire.
Right.
And
that wasn't her fault, as it turns out.
It was not her fault
But she was away. She wasn't there at the time it happened.
That maybe she wasn't caring for them properly, blah, blah, blah. So she had the kids taken away. So, and then you hear later that he was a truck driver. He was in, his war stories are unbelievably chilling and gripping.
That scene at the bar where he's talking to another old man about it and talking about his time in the war. Yeah, it was just riveting. That was a great scene.
Yeah. And you find out that he was married. His wife is dead now. She gave birth to 12 children, and 7 of them survived, and some of them are still around, some of them aren't. So these are people that may not seem like fascinating people, but people are fascinating.
Right.
Just people in general are fascinating. And this is one of those movies that shows you that.
This is the kind of movie that Hollywood, I think, tends to overlook because it's middle America.
Hollywood overlooks middle America, even though it makes up about 90% of its fan base.
Exactly. So consequently, but
only Los Angeles and New York City, you would not make any money.
Right. And Lynch, even though he lives in L.A., and it has for years, he still remembers his Midwestern roots, he's from Montana, so it's not exactly Midwestern, but he knows that Americana. And that's one of the things we were talking about before we started recording tonight, was that Lynch really has a great handle on Americana. He loves it. He knows, you could see the love come out on the screen for it.
And even though, when you hear about David Lynch's Los Angeles, it's not the Los Angeles that you see when you go there as a tourist, and it's not the Los Angeles that you see at red carpet events. This is the Los Angeles of mid-century houses and Bob's Big Boy where you go and get coffee every day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, his Los Angeles has a lot of Midwestern aspects to it. You know, going to the same place for coffee every day.
Right. Diners, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going to for coffee every day is a kind of it's a universal thing, really.
Yeah.
But even though David Lynch loves Los Angeles and that's where he can most easily, and I'll bet being from Montana, the weather in Los Angeles, you're probably like, thank God. You know, Montana's really, really freaking cold.
Well, now you know why David Lynch does all those weather reports, because he's just so excited to talk about the weather, apparently.
He's just so happy that it's just still like, you know, in the 60s or 70s. So
74 degrees.
It's 74 degrees today. These weather reports are so rad.
Yeah.
So
40 Celsius.
Even though LA is more where he's comfortable, it's not that the LA scene is his scene necessarily.
No, but he knows people who are into that scene, I think.
Yeah, I think he does. I think he knows.
He's aware of the scene. He just doesn't really probably participate in it.
Yeah, the scene is a, not a unfamiliar concept to him, but that's not, I don't think that's what actually draws and actually does draw him is the interesting, intricate, how many different things are there, the ideas that can come out of such an incredible melting pot of people. But that doesn't mean he's disrespectful of the Midwest.
No.
And you can definitely see a respect for the Midwest in this movie and the things that happen here. Because take, for example, the fire, the scene with the house on fire.
Right.
That's a thing. If you've never seen it, it's actually really interesting to watch. But that is what'll happen is.
You mean when the firefighters are training, that scene?
The training exercise, the firefighter training exercises.
Right.
What will happen is people will buy property that has a rundown shack on it, or they clear out their mother's house and it's not worth anything, so they sell it to the fire department for profit.
Yeah.
And people, they come out of their, I mean, it happened a couple of blocks from me when I was growing up. We had a house that was a controlled fire for the fire department, and there were probably 30 people.
It's a spectator sport, essentially.
It's standing around watching it because it's fascinating. I mean,
when you get to watch a fire,
when can you watch it in the daytime safely and know that everything is going to be fine? I mean, they've turned off the gas line, so there's not going to be an explosion, something like that. So the idea that these people are by the side of the road watching the firefighters put out this fire is something that happens in the Midwest. But as you see later, these are not stoners or loser people. You know, the guy's like, hey, my name's Danny. I worked for John Deere for 30 years. Come to my house. These are good people who are decent people who have worked decent jobs. And David Lynch has a real respect there. And I think that's very.
Yeah, it definitely comes through on the screen. And I know that when I was doing my research for this one, I noticed that Lynch was talking about that when he read the screenplay for the first time, he felt he supposedly had like this big, strong emotion after he read the screenplay. He's like, I got to be the guy to put that on screen.
Yeah, he says, I know it's a departure for me, but. Yeah,
probably he felt that like, I don't know who else could do this movie but me. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think he's right, because David Lynch is another one of those where where his movies can be slow paced, but not feel slow paced.
Right.
That you're okay with watching this old man smoke a cigar and look at the stars.
Yeah.
Like multiple times in the movie. You're fine with that.
Yeah.
Because
well, that's another Lynch trope, is a character smoking like a chimney, essentially, throughout the movie.
Right. There's that. And one of the things I loved about this, another Lynch trope, is that you see the road as it comes at you, but really slow.
Right. And it's in the daytime. It's not like at night where you don't have the traditional Lynch headlight shot.
Right. But you have the road coming at you, and it's just going like 5 miles an hour.
Yeah, exactly. It's the slow motion daytime with your headlights off shot.
Right. Exactly. I when I saw that, I'm like, this is great.
It's like the bizarro version of Lost Highway almost, or Wild at Heart. You know, where they're on the road at night.
Right. Or even Cooper and Diane.
Yeah.
Drive.
It's another great one.
Spencer and Carrie driving in the middle of the night. You know, you have all that stuff, but it's still you still have the road shot from David Lynch, but you just don't have the speed of it, and it's not at night. It's not the headlights. There's no flashlights, things like that. But you do have those star shots that maybe you're going to see the head of Henry Spencer or the head of Major Briggs floating around.
Yeah, you that's the thing, is because we watch so much, surreal David Lynch things.
Mm-hmm.
You like keep almost, at least I did, like I'm going through this, you almost kind of like, well, you almost get the feeling like something could happen, even though it doesn't. Something,
right.
You start waiting for the dark turn, and it doesn't come in this one because that's not intended to be.
No, it doesn't, because David Lynch is about.
Did you go through that too? That you could like imagine, like your imagination kind of carries you. Go like, I could very easily see something weird happening at this point in the movie.
Especially those shots of the night sky. I kept expecting to see Major Briggs' floating head.
Right.
Yeah, or Henry Spencer's floating head. A
lot of floating heads.
I was thinking about that. Yeah, I was thinking about that. I think if there was a fan cut of this movie, that's what they would do. Is they would add Henry Spencer's head to the.
Somebody needs to do like a traditional Lynch edit of the Straight story. That would be hilarious to watch.
I think that would be.
Maybe somebody already has. I don't know, but YouTube, you need to take that idea and run with it. As far as
you got to do that.
I need to watch that.
This movie helps prove that David Lynch can do anything. First and foremost, he is an artist, and after that, he is a man of ideas, and after that, he's a director, and he has a respect for art, and a respect for stories, and a respect for storytelling, and a respect for. David Lynch likes interesting characters.
If you'll pardon the pun, he can actually tell a straight story.
Yeah. Alvin Straight is an interesting character. He's an interesting person.
Yeah.
Like I said, having gone through what he went through during the war, having gone through alcoholism, having gone through the death of children.
Right.
His
estrangement from his brother, which is a big factor here.
His estrangement, which is what causes him to go on this road trip on his lawnmower. And he's an interesting guy. Rose, his daughter, interesting person who, we don't see too much about her, but we get a little bit of her personality, and we learn about this, the tragedy with her children.
Right.
What's her name?
How much she cares about her father, and
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Even Danny, the guy that.
Danny Reardon, yeah.
Yeah, Danny Reardon, the guy that says, hey, set up camp in my backyard. There's a bathroom. We'll get your tractor fixed. He's an interesting character. Mm-hmm. I think, what is her name? Crystal, the girl who's pregnant?
Crystal, yeah. The Anastasia Webb's character, she stops by. She's a runaway, essentially, from after finding out she's pregnant, and she hasn't told her boyfriend or whatever, and hasn't told her family. Yeah. And you really learn a little bit more about Alvin in that scene as well, because you really learn about how intuitive he is. Yeah.
She's saying, my family hates me, blah, blah, blah. I haven't gone. And he just says, how far along are you? He figures it out. She does not look pregnant. It's not like she's, walking up, holding her back, carrying her belly and vomiting or something.
No. She said she was like 5 months pregnant, if I recall correctly.
5 months. Yeah. He figures it out. He says to her, how far along are you?
Well, it's one of the things I noticed is a kind of a running theme in this movie is that it's Alvin, and that scene is a great example of this. It's Alvin, because he's an old man. He's lived a long life. As he says, he's seen a lot of things, done a lot of things. So his experience with, presumably pregnant women, because, hey, his wife was pregnant so often, apparently, that probably tipped him off and was like, oh, yeah, you got to be pregnant.
So yeah, he's intuitive with people. He's been around, and she says how long he's been on the road, and he says, I've been traveling most of my life. He's been to war, and then he was a truck driver.
Yeah.
He was constantly on the road, seeing new people, seeing different things. And he talked about in the scene in the bar where he's talking about his experience in the war, about how he was good at what he did because he just sat and watched. The things you can learn if you just sit and watch is what he said.
And that's great advice. It's something that's actually stuck with me a lot over the years is that, and I think maybe Twin Peaks actually had a hand in this, because if you remember the Giants line, better to listen than to talk. That a lot of people, if they shut up long enough, and I realize the irony of this doing a podcast, but if you shut up long enough and just listen, you're going to learn something.
You gotta listen to the sounds. You're right.
Right. So, yeah, better to listen than to talk, guys. But yeah, you see Alvin going through this entire movie, essentially imparting the wisdom that he's learned through his advanced age. He comes across people like Crystal, and he tries to give her advice about what to do, and that she needs to get back with her family. And he talks with Danny and just other people that he meets along the way. And that there's that scene after the he gets passed by all those bicyclists. On the road.
And then he goes to their camp.
Yeah, he goes to their camp, and they're all like, "Hey, he showed up. He finally got here." And they're just he's kind of just hanging out with him. They're kind of partying or whatever. And there's a couple of guys that say, what's it like to be an old man, and like, what's the worst thing or whatever about being old? And he says, well, because you remember when you're young.
Yeah, the worst thing about being old is remember when you was young. And I was like, oh my God, that hit me right in the feels.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, yeah, that's the thing. Just thinking about how is it possible that almost 30 years have gone by since I graduated high school? Mm-hmm. That doesn't seem nearly. I mean, I still feel like.
Right. It just happened yesterday.
Hell, I still wake up thinking I have a paper due sometimes.
Well, my parents are in their 80s, and I talk to them about this a lot. And they said that it feels like it just happened yesterday.
It really does feel like it just happened yesterday.
And you turn around and you look in the mirror, you're like, what happened?
Yeah.
So look forward to that, kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great time.
That's a great thing to look forward to about getting old, right?
As Alvin Straight says, you learn how to separate the wheat from the chaff, which is also a really good piece of advice.
Yeah.
Because not everything in this world is, worth your consumption. And you have to learn to separate the wheat from the chaff. So, yeah, he's a very, very interesting character. And he's not somebody you would think, I mean, he's like I don't want to say he's like a Tuesdays with, good Lord.
Maury?
I don't want to say he's like a Tuesdays with Maury kind of person.
Yeah.
But it's that kind of a thing where there's just this old man that you would walk by a million times in your town. You'd say, hey, but there's really, really interesting stories in there.
Right.
And that's all of us, all of us, we have something interesting to say or some piece of interesting information or interesting nugget of knowledge or wisdom or
if you're Xan, you have like a fountain of knowledge.
My fountain of knowledge is everybody else's wisdom. That's the problem.
But unlike me, you remember it. So
I have a couple of nuggets of wisdom of my own.
Okay, well that's good.
I'm not quite 45 yet. I have some time.
Okay. I guess we have to get you drunk enough on Drunk Cinema so that you'll impart some of this wisdom.
Oh my God, Charles. The next time I say, you know what, let's have blue curacao, do not let me.
Okay.
Do not agree.
Is that now verboten?
It's not verboten. It's just not. It did not.
It did not go well.
It did not get digested.
Ooh, that's not good.
Yeah.
A slight regurgitation on your part is what you're telling me.
I'll just say that it checked out early.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So
we'll
anyway,
leave it there.
Yeah,
we'll leave it there.
Get me drunk enough on Drunk Cinema. We'll talk about some nuggets of knowledge.
All right.
But anyway.
Now I'm curious. All right.
So
I could very much, I could see why Lynch would be attracted to this kind of character in this story.
I don't know how you would not be attracted to the story.
But just think about the premise, the basic premise of this old man riding a lawnmower across an entire state and crossing the state border to go see his brother who's had a stroke. That seems like something like very David Lynch, right? On its surface.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because
like here's this very strange character who instead of, I don't know, taking the bus or letting someone else drive him, goes through all this trouble to drive a lawnmower across an entire state of Iowa.
Well, and what kills me about this true story is that how is he not arrested doing this?
I was waiting for that. I kept watching this whole movie going, where the hell are the cops? Because I'm just saying, it's white privilege. I'm telling you, it's white privilege.
But also it's Midwestern culture. I mean, Charles, you and I both know that there are times when you are driving on one of our highways, not our freeways, but one of our interstates, where you have to go around either a horse and buggy from the Amish population or a tractor. Right. So
well, one of the things I noticed,
concept of farm equipment on the road is not that uncommon here.
No, and I noticed that he did it right, because he had this slow-moving vehicle triangle, the orange triangle, on the back of his trailer, and he was also driving along the curb. Yep. Like he had his right tires off on the in the ditch on the side of the road.
He was not backing up. He wasn't backing up traffic. None of that kind of stuff.
Which is what you really should be doing if you're a slow-moving vehicle. So he's probably legally in the right.
He's probably legally okay to do that. And again, I'm sure people saw this 80-year-old man and heard about his story. I mean, he probably became like this folk hero, like Forrest Gump did when he was running across the country.
Right.
So people probably just...
And as long as he stayed off the interstate, he probably was legally okay, I'm guessing.
Right. Exactly. As long as he's off of the freeway, off of the 65 and up miles an hour, he was probably fine. Because, I mean, most of these roads he was on, I think, were probably 55 maximum.
Right.
Most of them were probably 40. Right. So...
I mean, there's that one dangerous part where, like he's coming down a hill, a mountain, or not really a mountain, but a very steep hill.
A hill.
And his lawnmower couldn't keep up with the braking.
Yeah, the belt broke and his transmission blew on him. Yeah. So he had some problems with that. But and even like I loved the lady that hit the deer. Mm-hmm.
That was she was a very Lynch character, wasn't she?
She was very, her uncle is coming for dinner.
Yeah, exactly. I was waiting for that. Yes. I got that total vibe.
Yeah, she reminded me of that. And
Why is this happening?
Why is this happening? She hasn't seen him in years and he's coming for dinner.
Yeah, totally. I did get that vibe. Yes.
I totally got that vibe. I have to drive this way every day.
Like I said, this is definitely a David Lynch film. You can tell it's a David Lynch film. Yes.
And I love deer. And, I love that Alvin just looks at the deer, kicks at it with his boot. And the next thing you know, he's got antlers on his trailer and he's grilling up venison. Yep. But he doesn't want the fake deer to look at him while he's eating it, which cracked me up.
Well, it gets a little awkward. He kind of like turns his chair so that the deer, he can't look at the deer can't look at him directly.
Because he stopped off the road.
And he looks really uncomfortable about it. That was pretty funny.
Yeah, he stopped off the road in a field by somebody's yard that had a bunch of fake deer in it. And so the fake deer are just watching him grill up some venison and he's just like, don't judge me. And it really
he kind of looked like Chewbacca in what was it in Last Jedi when he's like roasting, like has one of the porgs on his spit.
Yeah.
And all the other porgs are looking at him. Yeah.
My ex-boyfriend won a trip for 4 to Disney World. It was like pretty much it was airfare, it was hotel, it was admission to the park for 4 people for like 4 days. It was incredible.
Right.
We happened to go during Hurricane Floyd, so it was interesting, but still, it was. So it was, and it included like some sort of special amenity, and so it was me and my ex-boyfriend and my ex-boyfriend's father and stepmother.
Okay.
We all went to Disney World, and one of the special amenities that you could choose from was a character breakfast. The most popular one, of course, is you can have breakfast with Cinderella in Cinderella's castle, but that's like a waiting period for the reservations for that.
Yeah, because I'm sure that's top shelf. You got to wait for that one.
That's the one that everybody wants to do because it's in the big main castle.
Right. They gotta keep their little girls happy. Yeah.
Not even that. It's just if you were going to the Disney World and like the icon of Disney is you can have your breakfast, you're going to.
Yeah.
So another option, which was breakfast in the Crystal Palace, which is more like a greenhouse looking type place, with the characters from the 100 Acre Wood. So
interesting.
I was all over that one. That was the one I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Because Pooh Bear was there.
It would say Piglet and Eeyore and Tigger and.
Yeah, Pooh Bear was there, and he just stood at the front. You had to walk up to him, but then Tigger and Piglet and Eeyore walked around and worked the room essentially.
Right.
So Tigger would come over and jump around at you, and like Piglet would try and be shy. But because Piglet was there, I would not eat bacon or sausage. I just couldn't do it. and everybody, it was like a brunch, like a brunch buffet, and everybody came back to their table with bacon. I'm like, Piglet is right there. He's gonna see you eating bacon. He's gonna be mad.
That's adorable.
I could not eat bacon or sausage with Piglet watching me. Couldn't do it.
That is the most adorable thing ever.
So I totally related to Alvin Straight. I was like, I get you, man. I get you.
See, I would have been the guy offering Piglet bacon, personally.
See, now that's just psychotic.
I know. Like, here, you want some? It's good.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, that's funny. All right. You want to run down the cast? It won't take very long because there's not much.
We can talk about the cast because one of the interesting things about this movie is that the people who are in it, there's not a lot of people who have done what. I mean, these people some of them have like 13 credits to their name on IMDb. These are not
professional
starring.
Major.
Yeah, they're not major stars.
Actors, yeah.
And we only have 2 David Lynch vets, and they also both happen to be Twin Peaks vets, because we get Everett McGill, who sells him his 1966 John Deere tractor.
Right, Tom the salesman, yeah.
And then at the very end, we get Harry Dean Stanton as his brother Lyle.
Right.
And I think Harry Dean Stanton says 2 lines.
Yeah.
They're
both very much cameos.
Yeah, he yells out Alvin, and then he says, "Did you drive that thing just to see me?" And he says, "Yeah, I did, Lyle." And then they just sit and they watch the sky together.
Right. The end. Yeah.
It's so beautiful. It's so sweet. And they say, and just that act says so many things between the two of them that they never have to say. Like neither one of them has to apologize. This is what did it. They're together now. They know it. They understand. And Charles, you know me. I'm a sucker for when I see old men crying. Yeah, so if I see old men crying, I just start crying. So I was crying twice.
Well, their eyes start getting a little watery, if you noticed.
Harry Dean Stanton starting to choke up and then choking back tears. My God, that man was an amazing performer.
Yeah.
But yeah, Harry Dean Stanton almost crying made me lose my damn mind. I just started sobbing. Because when the two of them, when he and the other guy in the bar were exchanging their war stories and they both they started crying.
Right.
I was like, oh, you didn't know, Alvin. It's okay. Like, I felt so bad.
You're going to give him a big hug. Yeah,
at the end, oh my God, Harry Dean Stanton was driving me crazy. Because it almost looked like he somehow, like at will, like sucked that tear back up into his eyeball. You could tell he was starting to choke up, but he just didn't do it.
Yeah.
And he
did just enough to sell that scene.
Oh my God, why doesn't Harry Dean Stanton have all of the Oscars?
Right. Very underrated, obviously.
He's very underrated. So we've got the two of them.
Yeah. That's our Twin Peaks actors. There was no other Lynch vets, I noticed.
That's it.
Yeah.
This one doesn't even have, like, the only other person is like Mary Sweeney. Like Joanna Ray didn't even do the casting.
Yeah.
Usually you can depend on seeing Joanna Ray's name in something, but
right, not this time.
Well, the cinematographer was Freddie Francis, and the production designer was Jack Fisk. So we have those people who have worked with David Lynch before, but that's about it. So we've got Sissy Spacek, who, as we've discussed before, is married to Jack Fisk. And
she was one of the
was at the time David Lynch's sister.
Wasn't she one of the executive producers on Eraserhead?
Yeah, and she's thanked in Eraserhead because she had some pull
One of
in
the funding source or something like that
Yeah.
for the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, after having been in Carrie, she had some pull in Hollywood. She had some money, so they thanked her for that. And like I said, Jack Fisk and Sissy Spacek were also at one time David Lynch's in-laws.
Right.
Sissy Spacek was at one time David Lynch's sister-in-law. So, and then,
and she, all these years later, finally she stars in one of his movies.
Right. Yeah, this is the only one she's ever actually in.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna save Richard Farnsworth to talk about last because he's just fascinating.
Yeah.
But like I said, pretty much everybody else in this movie is not really anybody that has. They're all character actors,
right?
With the exception of the twins, who.
I was wondering if you caught that about. So we have Kevin Farley as Harold Olsen.
Harold and Hovarth.
Yeah, Harold and Thorvald. Yeah.
Thorvald. Yeah, Harold and Thorvald.
And John P. Farley.
Those are Chris Farley's brothers.
So, yeah, they're Chris Farley's brothers. And apparently Farley was supposed to be in this movie, but he died.
He died 2 years before this movie was made, yeah.
So
he was supposed to be in this movie, and I almost think that adds like another full layer of tragedy to Chris Farley's death.
Yeah.
Because I think Chris Farley was another one, I think, who was a better actor than was given the opportunity to show.
Mm-hmm.
And this would have done it. Even with that little 5-minute scene, I think this would have done it. You know, Chris Farley being such a, physical comedian. And
I was trying to figure out what character he would have played, or do you think he would have been like a triplet instead of twins? Repairing?
They would have been triplets, or he would have been one of the twins. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
And Chris Farley, I think, reminds me a lot in a way of Jim Carrey. When we first learned about Jim Carrey in Living Color, he was, Fire Marshal Bill and all these really physical comedy things. He was
exaggerated characters. Yeah.
Who talks out of his butt, all those things. And then we see The Truman Show and The Majestic and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and we realize, no, this guy's just a really good actor who's also funny and can do ridiculous physical comedy as well.
Right.
And I think if Chris Farley had, that's another thing about getting older. I can't believe that I am 12 years older than Chris Farley was when he died.
Yeah.
I mean, that's ridiculous that I outlived Chris Farley by 12 years.
Well, you've taken better care of yourself than Chris Farley.
Well, I've never done cocaine, but
yeah.
There's a lot of people out there that do cocaine until they're 70. There's no reason why. So the thing is, I think Chris Farley could have been one of those actors that starts out, or like a Bill Murray, where he starts out as a comedic actor, but then he can do something like Lost in Translation, or I think we've talked before. I don't know. I think we've talked before about Rodney Dangerfield and his performance in Natural Born Killers.
Yeah, we have. Yeah,
literally the only reason you should watch Natural Born Killers. Let's talk about Woody Harrelson. We know him for comedy, and then he played Larry Flint.
Yeah, and also in Natural Born Killers.
True, but he's better as Larry Flint.
Yes. Yeah.
I think he does a better job. Larry Flint, by the way, rest in peace. We just recently lost the Larry Flint.
Yes.
Yeah. Say what you want to about Larry Flint, but if you love your First Amendment rights, you can thank Larry Flint for fighting for them.
Dear Penthouse Forum, you'll never believe what happened to me today.
That's Bob Guccione. I'm talking about Larry Flint. I'm talking about Hustler.
Oh, that's right. Hustler. Yes.
Larry Flint's Hustler. Yeah. Yeah. Bob Guccione is Penthouse, and Hugh Hefner is Playboy.
I know who Hugh Hefner is Playboy. Yes.
Don't ask me why I know who pushes all these porno magazines, but I just know that. No, Larry Flint was from Cincinnati.
No.
So
yeah.
Larry Flint was from Cincinnati and paid with his legs for the right to do the smutty stuff that he did.
Yeah.
And So yeah, I got to give him some props. Anyway, Chris Farley could have been one of those people, one of those comedians that became a person that you had to really kind of stand back and take a look at for their
Right.
non-comedic acting. Even though these twins were kind of comedic, they weren't like Matt Foley type comedic.
No, they were just David Lynch comedic.
Shut up, Danny.
Yeah.
I really did like that. So,
yeah, right.
So it made me pretty sad that Chris Farley didn't get this chance, because I think if he had been in this movie, people would have seen him do something, like I said, do something other than Matt Foley. Because I mean, when you think of Chris Farley, you think of Tommy Boy, you think of Chippendale Dancers, and you think of Matt Foley.
Yeah.
And
with a van down by the river. Yeah.
I am 34 years old. I am divorced, and I live in a van down by the river.
Yeah.
She's one of the greatest characters in the history of Saturday Night Live. Anyway, so yeah, we had Chris Farley's brothers, and everybody, like I said, everybody else is pretty much a character. But then we have Richard Farnsworth.
Right.
Richard Farnsworth plays our main character, and
Alvin Straight. Yeah.
He was not somebody that I knew very well, except for being in Misery. That was the first time I ever really realized.
He's been in it. I got his. I wrote down a bunch. Everything. He's been in a ton of movies.
He started out.
You want to run?
Yeah. Yeah. Talk about this.
All right.
He started out as a stuntman, and his first movie was A Day at the Races.
Yeah, I was good. That's on my list because I'm a big Marx Brothers guy. He was a jockey. He was one of the jockeys in A Day at the Races.
Yeah.
So he goes all the way back to A Day at the Races.
Yeah. Day at the Races, which is what, 1937? Yeah.
Yeah. He was in Gone with the Wind.
Gone with the Wind, Mighty Joe Young, Spartacus, How the West Was Won, Papillon, Paint Your Wagon, The Omega Man, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, Blazing Saddles.
Yep. I've got, he was in The Wild One, The Ten Commandments.
Yep.
Legend of the Lone Ranger, which is a personal fave of mine, because, hey, Michael Horace from Twin Peaks is in it as Tonto. The Natural, the Two Jakes. So the Outlaw Josie Wales. So lots of.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy's got a pedigree. Let's just put it that way. Yeah.
That's the thing. And the first time he did get an Oscar nomination for Comes a Horseman, which I think was 1970.
Which I haven't seen, but yeah.
I've never seen that either, but he was nominated for Best Supporting Actor for that. So he's been around as an actor and not just a stuntman as well. Surprisingly enough, I did not see that he was in Hooper. Was he in Hooper? I didn't think he was in Hooper.
I don't know.
Okay. Have you ever seen Hooper?
I know of it. It's a Burt Reynolds movie, yeah. So it's essentially it's a Hal Needham type movie, yeah. Stuntman, about a stuntman, yeah. It's
about a stuntman, yeah. Yeah. It's not, Jan Michael Vincent aside, it's not a bad movie. If you made me pick between Hooper and Gator, I would pick Hooper. Anyway.
Oh, see, I would go Gator. Gator's a great movie.
Really?
Gator's a great movie.
Yeah, but there's Jack Weston that you have to believe is an evil man, and I just don't believe Jack Weston can be an evil man. Yeah, Gator's good. But I like. But
go watch the episode of Archer where he goes down to the swamp. That's why Gator is a great movie.
Gator's, yeah, that is fantastic. I mean, of course, Charles, the Bandit's better than all of them.
Oh, well, it goes without saying. Yes.
That's
Smokey the Bandit. Yes, exactly. That's
the end of it. But
as far as Burt Reynolds movies goes, that's it. That's the cream of the crop.
That's it. That's it. And then Boogie Nights. And then Deliverance, and then probably Hooper for me. Gator's after Hooper, but I would take Hooper over Gator. Anyway.
Okay.
So the first time I ever saw Richard Farnsworth was in.
I like that we just slyly ranked the Burt Reynolds movies on the while we're talking the Straight Story. That's great. That's what we do.
Doesn't every podcast do that?
They should.
They should, yeah.
They should.
So he was in Misery, the Rob Reiner adaptation of the Stephen King novel, and he plays the sheriff who's trying to figure out. He's like, okay, so this guy's missing, and he usually he has a cabin up here and he's usually up here and what's going on? And he figures out that Annie Wilkes is the one that has him.
Okay.
Because he's reading one of Paul Sheldon's books to try and, just sort of get to, get the lay of the land of his victim.
Right.
And he reads a passage in that, and he goes back through some old newspapers and he realizes that Annie Wilkes quoted that passage when she was taken to jail for one of the hospital deaths that she was suspected of.
Right.
And that's how he figured out that she was obsessed with Paul Sheldon. So that's why he goes to her house to look for Paul Sheldon, finds him, and then of course she over the head and knocks him down the basement.
Exactly. So. Yeah.
So
because hey, it's a Stephen King novel. Yes.
It's Stephen King. So, and at the time, and so he was nominated for an Oscar for Comes a Horseman, and then he was for Best Supporting Actor, and then he was nominated for an Oscar for this movie. And unfortunately, he lost to Kevin Spacey, which does not age well.
No, it does not. Yeah, that was for American Beauty, if I recall correctly. Yeah.
Damn you for ruining Christmas. Anyway, so, and at the time, he was the oldest actor to be nominated for acting. But
now Hal Holbrook and Robert Duvall have passed him as far as being older.
I think Christopher Plummer did also.
Yeah,
but I'm
probably.
Not sure.
That sounds right. Yeah.
So he had this amazing career, and unfortunately, towards the end of his life, he had metastatic prostate cancer.
Right.
Which spread his bones.
Yeah.
And so
which is bad.
Leg problems, which is very bad. Yeah.
Well, especially when he's actually, he's suffering from bone cancer while he made The Straight Story. Which is why he, it partially caused paralysis in his legs, so that when you see Alvin using those dual canes,
that's real.
That's real. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's real. That's all him.
That's all Farnsworth.
And
yeah.
He said, they say that the rest of the crew and the cast were just amazed at how wonderful of a performance he was able to give with what he was going through at the time. And, unfortunately, in 2000, the next year, I believe it was after the Oscars. I think he was alive at the Oscars, but
I think it was too.
The pain, the pain was just too unbearable, and he committed suicide by shot in the head. He shot himself.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Yeah. So, which, if you're suffering from bone cancer and it's terminal, there's nothing really you can do, and you just don't want to suffer anymore.
See,
he took himself off the board.
I get it, but Charles, this is why. Yeah, this is why opioids exist.
Right.
Is for people like this.
Yeah.
Not for the people of Xenia, Ohio, but for people like this.
I know. Ohio has a really bad opioid problem, in case you didn't know.
Yeah. In case you know, Ohio.
Yeah.
We've
actually at our highest right now, believe it or not, as far as opioid.
With COVID, I believe it for sure.
Yeah, so, because everybody's staying home, and then apparently they're just doing drugs at home.
I guess, because do they not know that you can just buy vodka? I mean, just drink vodka.
Well, apparently that's not enough. No, I want to completely, lose all perspective of my body and sell.
But that's the thing. This is why opioids were invented, for this kind of pain management.
Right.
So that you don't shoot yourself in the head.
Yeah.
To alleviate the pain.
Right.
And so that's why this is why I find the opioid problem in the world so insidious. Because this is medication that is normally prescribed by oncologists.
Yeah.
Cancer, there's very, very few things in this world that are more insidious than cancer. The only thing that I think is possibly more, if not equal to cancer, is dementia.
Right. Yeah.
Is an insidious disease. But opioids
because I'm kind of watching my dad go through some of that. So yes, I get it.
It's awful.
It's awful.
And when the pain management technology, Better Living Through Chemistry, is there because we want to prevent people like Richard Farnsworth committing suicide
Mm-hmm.
and it's abused by just freaking mouth-breathing morons. It makes me, it's infuriating. And I understand they're addictive, and I understand that they got overprescribed, and I understand all of that stuff, but this is medication that should not be, this shouldn't have happened.
Well, you have a lot of doctors that prescribe that far too easily, I think.
Far too, yeah.
Yeah. I think
there
are doctors who I think are complicit. I won't name names, but
I would agree. I would agree with that.
I think that's why the crisis is, because it's too easy to say, okay, I'll just write you an opioid prescription.
Right,
and,
exactly.
And then
it
happens. Yeah.
We should, fentanyl should exist so Richard Farnsworth can be alive, not so Prince can be dead.
Yeah, pretty much.
So that's my little soapbox about that. So,
right.
Yeah, Farnsworth is pretty darn fascinating.
Yeah, he is. And tragic, sadly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Very, very tragic.
You talked about how the film was shot along the actual route that Alvin Straight took, right?
And it was shot
in chronological order.
Yeah.
Now, I also researched this. So, if you took a car to travel Alvin's route to visit his brother, it would take 4 hours, 50 minutes to drive from Lawrence, Iowa to Mount Zion, Wisconsin. 4 hours. It took 6 weeks for Alvin because he's on a freaking lawnmower.
It takes 6 weeks on a lawnmower.
Yeah. So
because he won't drive at night, which is probably for the best.
Right. So again, it's my frustration, and this is addressed in the movie because Alvin talks to I think Danny and stuff, where he says, this is what I want. I want to do it this way. Like I want to
do it. I want to finish it the way I started it.
Right. So, but you would think you could have 6 more weeks with your brother if you got on a bus, if you let somebody buy you a bus ticket to go there. Or drive you because, hey, it's all of 4 hours to get there.
Doesn't Rose say something about how the bus is not an option?
Well, I would think somebody could drive him to where it is an option, and then he could just take the bus from there, right?
You would think so, but whatever.
There are ways, I would think.
There are ways. You don't want to hear about it, but there are ways.
Right. I would think.
You want a tow? I'll get you a tow. I'll get your tow by 3:00 this afternoon with nail polish.
You could probably call for a taxi to come out to Lawrence, Iowa, pick you up, and then drive you there if you wanted to.
I mean, I'm sure that there's some Lyft driver out there that'd be willing to take your $300. I mean, the amount of money you spent on gas and Braunschweiger and repairs and wieners, Yes. I like how he had wieners but no buns. Like, you couldn't just bring buns with you?
Well, he's watching the carbs. I get that. He's trying to stay,
yes.
He's trying to dial back on the carbs.
He's diabetic. That's why he's half blind, is because of the diabetes. So.
Yeah, but he also has emphysema from smoking all those cigars, and he still smokes those.
I can see and hear that you're a smoker. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, and I love how he's at the doctor, and the doctor's like, "You need hip surgery." Nope. You need a walker. Nope. Just give me another cane.
Yep.
Let's do some tests on your eyes. Not going to do that.
Right. Sounds kind of like Xan at the sleep center.
No, I'm going to the sleep center.
I know.
You're the one that didn't go to the sleep center.
I know. I did. No, that's true. Okay, I'm projecting there, I guess. All right.
Yeah. I did a sleep study a couple weeks ago, and I have to do another one. That's what Charles is referring to.
Yes. Yeah.
But I'm all for testing. I'm too curious about what's going on inside of my body. You know what really drives me crazy, Charles? This has driven me crazy since I was a child.
What's that?
The concept that I will never see my own skeleton.
Okay.
Is just weird to me. For some reason, that's always just blown my mind as a kid. I will never see my own skeleton. Like, not even in a mirror will I be able to see my own skeleton.
Not even like an X-ray?
I mean like my actual skeleton, like the way it looked, like the actual bone. I'll never see it. Okay.
Well, presuming, you won't dip your hand into a tank full of piranha, I would guess yes. That was probably not the case.
Yeah, but so I'm extremely curious about the inner workings of my body. So I'm all for being tested for stuff.
Okay. That's good to know. All
Especially
right.
if I can barely freaking walk or get off the kitchen floor when I fall, I will see a doctor.
As you should, yes.
Yeah. And that's a line I liked in this movie where Danny says, I'll drive you. It's a nice, what did they say? It was like 60 more miles
Yeah.
to get to, that'd be like 2.5 hours of driving
Right.
for Danny and his wife.
Yeah. He's like,
And
it's a nice day. We'll go out there. It's good.
got that. And Alvin says, "You're a kind man talking to a stubborn man." I was like, all right.
Right. So
You gotta give him
translation,
that.
no.
No, we're not doing this.
Yeah.
We're not doing this today.
It's like, okay, you want to ride your lawnmower and burn it out, go right ahead.
And apparently they made like a special seat for the lawnmower for him that was a little more comfortable because he did have so many.
Right.
Many.
You're talking about Richard Farnsworth, yes. Yeah.
I'm talking about Richard Farnsworth, but I also love that he's just riding a lawnmower with a pillow on it.
Yeah. Well, you got to have a little cushion for the pushing. Yeah.
I know, but it's gonna. I mean, I just had to believe that by that time that he ran into Danny and all of Danny's friends, nothing about him smelled good.
Yeah.
With that cooler full of Braunschweiger
right.
And I don't know if he was doing laundry or if he was buying showers at the gas stations or what's going on. I'm sure he did not smell very good.
No, I'm sure.
He was auditioning. He was auditioning for The Woodsman, I think.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I'm gonna guess that deodorant wasn't one of those high priority items.
Well, and also it's like,
or showering.
No rain.
Yeah.
Yeah, dirt. He was just, when you're outside for 6 weeks, you're dirty. End of story. Outside.
Maybe he probably got a little cleaner when it rained on him, but not that much, I'm sure. Not enough.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So in the movie, Alvin's brother is named Lyle, but apparently in Alvin Straight's biography, his name is listed as Henry.
And they say that's probably more of a privacy thing.
Yeah, that the brother didn't want his real name used in the film, but presumably it could be looked up because if Alvin's name is the real name, it shouldn't be that hard if people wanted to find it out.
Alvin's the story, and Alvin was not interested in being famous for this. He turned down invitations to go on Letterman and Jay Leno's Tonight Show, and he was not into the whole 15 minutes of fame as being this guy.
Yeah. Apparently he didn't like it.
Yeah, his story got around. Some guy in Texas bought him a $5,000 riding lawnmower to replace the one that he burned out driving there.
I think you read the exact same stuff I did. Yeah.
He got all kinds of offers to do that, but he just wasn't interested.
No.
And sadly he died before this movie came out.
Yeah.
So
he couldn't go to the award show, I guess, the Oscars.
Right. Which, maybe he wouldn't have wanted to anyway. He wouldn't have wanted to have to put on a tie.
Probably.
To, go to a movie premiere or something.
They didn't serve Braunschweiger there, so screw it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to guess, Charles, you've never had Braunschweiger. Would that be a fair assumption?
That would be a fair assumption, yes. But my dad he's had it before. He loves it. My dad loves it.
Mm-hmm.
But
so does my dad. And I
like sausage, but I've never had Braunschweiger. Yeah, I know. It's different.
Braunschweiger is like if sausage were spreadable. Like it's very mushy. It's a very mushy thing.
Yeah.
It's meat paste.
Yeah, basically. That's why it's in a tube. That's why, when they're at the, when Rose is at the supermarket buying all those tubes.
Yeah, that's Braunschweiger.
And the cashier is like, that's a lot of Braunschweiger.
Yeah, I hate Braunschweiger, she says. But it's,
yeah.
I want to know what party you're having that you serve Braunschweiger. Because Braunschweiger is like, not a party food in my opinion. It's not something that I would serve like with cheese and crackers
Yeah.
or something.
Well, I'll tell you from my own experience, it's the
Mhm.
type of thing that you serve when you have your redneck relatives come up from, say, Portsmouth, Ohio.
Oh, okay. Okay.
You follow
So,
me?
like, do you serve crackers or do you
What?
make them sandwiches? Do you
Uh,
serve
I
or do
think
you make them
it's more with crackers, like, club crackers or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan. I'm not a big fan of that. But if you get like a
Yeah.
good couple of slices of
Yeah.
pumpernickel bread
Right.
and some Braunschweiger and like some horseradish mustard,
Yeah.
I'm right there with you.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a deli here in Columbus, Ohio, called a Brown Bag Deli,
Yeah.
which has some of the best potato salad you'll ever eat. But they have a Braunschweiger sandwich there called, it's the Curse of 39, Curse of 42, Curse of
Okay.
something, Curse of some year. I never remember what it is.
Okay.
And it's like Braunschweiger and like a hot mustard, I think Swiss cheese, tomato, and lettuce. It's amazing. It's so good. I used to work at a doctor when I was in college. I worked part-time at a doctor's office.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the women who worked there, left that job to go work for the Brown Bag. She, one of her friends was a manager there. And so she got like this assistant manager full-time job there. And we would sometimes order sandwiches, we'd
Yeah.
place it to go order and then one to pick it up.
Right.
And as soon as she saw like one order that had like 5 sandwiches,
Mm-hmm.
all of them had the potato salad as a side dish, and one of them was that Braunschweiger sandwich,
Yeah.
she knew it was us.
Because that was your usual.
That was my usual. So what would happen is I would get my sandwich and it would be wrapped up in like wax butcher paper.
Yeah.
And it would have like like the wax pen
Right.
that butcher right on. It would have a note like, "Hey Zan, miss you," because she knew.
She knew you by name. That's even better. That's awesome.
Well, no, somebody I used to work with.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, someone she used to work at the doctor's office with me, and then
Okay.
went to go work at the deli. And because
I was thinking the guy that prepared the order or whatever would write that.
No, yeah, she was preparing when she would see the sandwiches.
Okay.
She would prepare the order, and then she would write messages on everything
receipt
because she knew.
Okay.
She knew it was us. Like I said, I mean, she would, we would give a name and then she would know that, but she would see that sandwich. She's like, wait a minute, is that like 6 sandwiches and one of them's Braunschweiger? I think I know those people.
It's like, Norm on Cheers, Zan.
Yeah. Braunschweiger sandwich. That would be me. So.
Yeah. Or kind of like, it's me with a nice, regular, 2-patty plain burger at Five Guys, I guess.
2-patty cheeseburger, nothing on it.
Yeah, nothing on it.
Nothing on the.
Exactly. So did you read about what happens essentially after the movie with Alvin Straight's reunion and what happened after? Because apparently...
Well, I did read that his nephew had to drive him back home in his pickup.
Yeah. Apparently, Alvin's nephew, so essentially Henry Straight's son, Dane Straight, and I like that Dane is spelled Dayne, like Wayne.
Yep.
Drove him back to Iowa in his pickup truck, and then apparently Henry Straight later recovered from his stroke, moved back to Iowa.
Go live with Alvin!
Yep, he goes back to live with Alvin and the rest of his family. And then on November 9th, 1996, Alvin died of a heart ailment at a local hospital in Pocahontas, Iowa, age 76.
Yep.
And a lawnmower similar to the one he used on his trip, probably like the John Deere mower, accompanied his funeral procession to the cemetery.
Yeah, his funeral procession was led by one of those lawnmowers. Right. So I officially need a new chair, Charles. I was told.
Is it finally dead?
I just pulled
the staples came out. You killed the chair.
I can't.
This is the chair.
This is the chair. Yeah. The chair has, for being basically made out of fabric and styrofoam, it's done pretty well.
Okay.
But I think it's finally got to go.
Are we going to give it last rites? Here we go. Dominus Ominous. We ride the bus. You ride the bus. We all ride the bus.
When's the next bus?
I love that you know that. Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to say, you weren't sure I was going to catch that, were you?
I should have expected.
And all all the little meridians.
Excellent.
So,
Excellent. I should always remember who I'm talking to. That should be my default setting right there.
This story has this lovely happy ending that these brothers who were estranged, they come back together, and then, the one moves closer to the other one to,
yep.
So they can spend the rest of their years together, which is,
right.
I think, just
right.
lovely. It's so lovely. I can't even stand it.
Yeah. It's definitely Disney. I'll tell you that.
That's not even Disney. That's like the real story.
Well, that's true. I mean, this is what happens after, the film, but.
Yeah. And they literally did live happily ever after.
Right.
It's very, very cute.
Yeah. So that's good.
So, yeah, this is a fascinating story. And do you remember this, Charles? Like, do you remember hearing about this?
I do remember hearing somewhere. I'm not sure where. I can't remember exactly where, but I do remember hearing about the guy in the lawnmower. I didn't know his name. But I did remember hearing about a guy doing that. I just didn't.
Because
I didn't pay it close enough attention, and then, I knew about the movie.
That's the first time I ever heard about it.
After I got into David Lynch.
Was that the movie was and I don't remember why I didn't see this movie in the theater. I think it was either not out long enough or something. What was this, like 99?
This was 99. The movie came out, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if I just missed it or I thought, I'll see that at the Dollar Theater and then I'll think, I'll see it on video. And then I don't know what kept me from it because like I said last time, I was there on opening day for Lost Highway. So I don't know.
Well, maybe just because it was a G-rated movie, it just wasn't on your radar.
Not even that. I mean, it's not that. I remember it coming out and I remember being like David Lynch's movie. I'm thinking, wow, what a departure. And then I remember hearing that it was a true story about this guy that drove a lawnmower from Iowa to Wisconsin.
It probably didn't get enough marketing.
Well, like I said, I knew
promotion.
It was coming out. I knew it was coming out because I remember reading about it. I remember hearing about it. But it just, for whatever reason, you know how sometimes movies just slip by you? You just don't get to the theater in time?
Yep.
That's probably what happened with this one. And then
life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you can miss it.
Are you still here?
Go home.
Go home.
Yeah.
Go.
Go.
Go. So yeah, I don't know what kept, but I don't remember hearing, and this was of course 99 is before social media and Facebook where there's, people are forwarding the same article a million times.
Before the dark times, before the empire. Yes.
Before social media.
Before the social media empire, yes.
Before the social media empire, yeah. But it's not like something that you would.
It would be on a lot of people's radar. I don't think it would have been on a lot of people's radar.
It's not like that cat that gave birth to kittens that died and then ducklings hatched and so she nursed the ducklings. I mean, like, it's not like one of those stories that just gets circulated because somebody posts it or you see the TikTok or whatever.
Yeah.
We didn't have that back then, so I just think this sort of
got lost.
I just think I did not catch this.
Yeah.
And you think that it would be big news, especially since this was around the time of Forrest Gump. Right. And he's kind of essentially doing what Forrest Gump did, running across the country.
Well, maybe it just got overshadowed then by Forrest Gump.
Well, if it was, what was it, 90? It was 94?
The movie was 99.
No, when did this happen?
This story.
Yeah.
I think it was 96, wasn't it? No,
he died in 95.
Oh, that's right. No, it's 94. I'm sorry. It is 94. You're right.
Yeah. Well, Charles, I don't know if you remember, but there was one really, really big news story going on in 1994. Some football player killed his ex-wife, they say.
Oh yeah, yes.
So
maybe that. Yeah, you mean Nordberg from Naked Gun?
I mean the juice.
The juice.
I'm talking about the juice.
Loose. And a little bit of a freeway chase at slow motion.
Yeah.
That David Lynch would appreciate.
So that was also 1994.
Yeah.
But
that was in the summer. This is October when this came out.
That was all damn year, Charles.
Well, that's true because of all the media coverage. Yeah, the trial and all that.
Took forever. And so, I think probably that gave me some news fatigue.
Yeah.
I think I had major news fatigue because of OJ. And then not only OJ, Kurt Cobain died.
Yeah.
That summer.
That was a big
So
deal.
it was like just constant bad news. And I think I just had news fatigue, and that's what happened. So
it's possible.
That's probably why I missed it, you know. And I will say, from about September of 94 to about May of 96, I wasn't having the greatest time of my life. So I probably was very retreated into myself a little bit. So
I understand.
I don't know, but I totally missed this story. Totally missed the discovery of Chauvet Cave, which was also 1994. Like, a lot of crazy shit, interesting stuff happened.
Right.
Before that, I just, whew.
Well, there you go.
River Phoenix was dead.
Right.
So what was the point of living after that?
Well, somehow we survived.
Yeah, but you know, it hasn't been a good life. I don't know. I look at pictures of him.
It's
and
all
I
River
think,
Phoenix's fault. Yep.
Why do I have to live in a world without you, my darling?
Why did you have to go to the Viper Room?
Why did you leave me, River? Johnny Depp, damn you!
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Well, we could say that for multiple reasons, I guess. Just saying.
I think Johnny Depp should give up his F-off island and give it over to the government, and we turn it into a penal colony for people like Ted Cruz and all of the other insurrectionist people.
I think that's a great idea.
And they can just, you know, Lord of the Flies battle royale it out on that island. You know, just, you know, everything wrong.
I'm just picturing the battle royale right there. Yes. If you've ever seen that movie, Battle Royale, you have to see that movie. If you haven't,
you have to see that.
You have to see that movie. It's a very messed up movie, and I love it.
I'm just hearing like the Star Trek.
It's the Hunger Games done right, because it was done before the Hunger Games.
Well, it's the Hunger Games not for children.
Yeah. It's essentially the movie that the Hunger Games ripped off, allegedly.
Yeah, well,
allegedly.
Take the Hunger Games and take Lord of the Flies, and then take the absolute shittiest parts of humanity and put it all together, and you've got
in a blender. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So getting back to the Straight story a little bit.
Okay. I was really excited about the idea of Ted Cruz being born on an island.
I know, but you could spend hours just fantasizing about that.
I know. That's what I do every day.
I'm sure Jesse does it right now after.
Poor Jesse.
Yeah, he's our friend Jesse. Go listen to Next Stop Everywhere if you get a chance. Cause we'll talk about more about that later, because Jesse's from Texas, by the way. So what's your rating for this movie?
This gets a 9 out of 10 wieners on a stick for me.
Okay. All right. So you're going to go campfire wieners on a stick?
Campfire wieners on a stick. Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, I will go, I'm going to give this one, I liked it a lot. I'm going to give it 8.5 tubes of Braunschweiger sausage.
There you go. No, I really loved this movie. I loved learning about this guy. Yeah. I loved his relationship with his daughter. I loved the concept that people are still kind to strangers.
Yeah.
And I'm well aware that there's another side of that this probably would not, he probably would have been, you were probably right. There's probably a lot of white privilege going on here, that he's able to do this because he's an old white man.
Right.
And people were, willing to be nice to an old white man. I'm aware of that.
And also this was during the 90s, and so,
But the concept that somebody would do this to make amends,
right,
when they know that the rift was wrong in the first place.
Right.
I love that concept, and I love that this movie, again, like I said, is further proof that David Lynch can do anything. David Lynch doesn't have to be weird.
Right.
David can just give you great visuals and slow you down and let you watch things. And I really, really loved this movie. I did not expect to like it as much as I did.
So you were pleasantly surprised.
Right. I thought it was going to be, because you know how most movies like this that are touted as like the feel good story of the year.
Right.
This is not touted as such, but it is. I mean, it's really, you just feel good when those two brothers are finally together on the porch of his shack in the middle of nowhere. I mean, this is not a glamorous story. These are not glamorous people. These are not people who come into fame and fortune. This is not there's not a lot of action. This is just humanity at its best.
Right.
And
it's most real, probably.
It's most real and at its best. Just these two men sitting there in silence, saying everything.
These brothers.
Yeah, there's two brothers, and everything that needs to be said is said by their presence.
Mm-hmm.
It has nothing to do with their words. It has everything to do with the fact that they are there and present with each other. And I think it's beautiful. Yeah. I really, really loved this movie.
Yeah, I mean, I love the wholesomeness of it. I mean, I know that's a very trite word to a lot of people. They think it's a little too, I don't know, Disney-esque, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, wholesome, I think, to a lot of people means boring.
Right, exactly. And I think, a lot of people are probably would watch this movie and go like, well, there's not much that happens. But I would argue you don't need to have much happen.
No.
You're telling a character story. You're telling someone's life, and it's a biography. And so as a result, and this is one of the things I just love of what Lynch does and why he's actually he was right. He probably was one of the better directors to direct this film, because he for all the, the darkness and the strangeness that he can do and project on the screen as an artist, he also gets, like I said, the Americana of it. He gets, that, like I said, that part of the country, the middle America, that most Hollywood directors don't want to get or just don't understand.
Right. Or if you have someone like, and the thing about David Lynch, what he understands about, like you said, Americana, for lack of a better term, there's got to be
and the cinematography by Freddie Francis is exquisite.
It's beautiful. It's absolutely, because
the sweeping shots of the hillsides and just
that's things we've got here in this country. We have natural beauty on all spectrums. Yeah, deserts, mountains,
the farms,
forests, rivers, all of it. Yeah. All of it is just absolutely gorgeous. I'm thinking really hard to articulate this, but there's something about the lack of, there's a respect for it. There's a respect for it.
That's a great word.
It's not just a respect, but there is a lack of condescension, because I feel like a lot of times when you have something that is middle America, Americana, or something very simple, and this is a very simple story, not that these are simple people or anything, but it's a very simple story. When you have something, when you have Hollywood trying to portray simplicity, there's a condescension.
There's a cynicism as well.
A cynicism and a little bit of a condescension.
Yeah.
Which I don't think you would get with a David Lynch.
Right.
I do think you would get it with a Steven Spielberg. Just that sort of
elitism, the elitism.
That elitism, like, oh, isn't that cute? These people live simply.
Right.
Or, God bless America, Richard Lester, and, the planet Houston.
Yes.
How ridiculous and condescending to America and the entire state of Texas.
Right.
Those scenes are.
Right.
I think possibly Frank Darabont could have done it.
Mm-hmm.
After the great work he did on Shawshank Redemption.
Right.
There's nothing particularly condescending about the Midwest. I mean, it's supposed to be Maine, but it's Ohio.
Right.
So I think he's able, and it's small town, farm, tree, sex, murder, anyway. But there's that, I don't know if you've ever seen the documentary Marwen Call
No.
about the and I can't think of his name right now, but he was very, very severely beaten in a bar fight.
Right.
And had suffered brain damage.
Right.
And what he does now is he's created his own little town called Marwen Call, named after three very special women in his life, Mary, Wendy, and Colleen. Marwen Call.
Yeah.
And Steve Carell played him in the movie Welcome to Marwen.
Right.
It's about a true story about.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it. Yeah.
And what he does is he creates these characters out of Barbies and G.I. Joes and puts them in these World War II scenarios, saloons, brothels, battlefields, things like that.
Right.
And there's a real honesty to the photography. There was a book of photography done on it. And he did the photos, and there's the documentary. There's such an honesty about like, oh, okay, that's what this guy is doing.
Right.
There's a validation. There's a sense of validity of what's going on with it. There's not that ironic sense of, oh, look at this crazy man and his dollies. There's not a sense of, and that's the same thing with this movie. There's not a sense of, oh, isn't this cute? This old man drove a tractor.
It's not patronizing.
It's not, yes, patronizing. Great word. But like I said, so often with Hollywood, when you have situations where you portray people who live simply, people who don't have a lot of money, people whose stories are just about being people, there is sometimes this inherent irony or condescension that is hard to shake. And I think David Lynch was able to do this perfectly without any scent of that at all.
Yeah, right. There's no sense of irony here. No,
none. This is what this guy did.
Yeah.
And
there's just an appreciation. There's an appreciation for it.
It is legitimately fascinating. I mean, and I'm sure that there are some, people who their entire identity is wrapped up in the fact that they live in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Who think it's hilarious that you can just go anywhere in the Midwest and buy a John Deere tractor.
Right.
Or riding lawnmower.
Or what even is a John Deere lawnmower and tractor.
Right. You can be cynical and you can be condescending and you can be patronizing as much as you want to, but this man is fascinating.
Yeah.
And the stories he has to tell are fascinating.
Yeah. I think
whether it's whether it's what you would think would be a fascinating story is not the point. It is a fascinating story.
Yeah, I totally agree. And
not to insult any of our listeners who happen to live in Brooklyn. I just think there are a lot of transplants to the gentrified version of Brooklyn that now think, okay, I'm cool now. I live in Brooklyn. There's a podcast I listened to years ago, and I can't remember what it was. I think it was This American Life, where this guy was recounting how his stepfather always wanted to move to New York City. It was his dream. He wanted to move to New York City. And he said that he got the feeling like the plane was going to land, and they would get off the plane and there would be people saying, oh, we're so glad you're finally here. You belong with us. And of course they moved away after like 2 years because New York City is really, really difficult to live in. It's very expensive. It's very crowded. But yeah, just this idea that the only cultural hub of the world is, is one place with a couple of boroughs is a ridiculous concept.
Well, I kind of see that when I watch cable news, because it seems like, if it doesn't happen in either Washington, D.C. or New York City or L.A., it doesn't matter.
Right. And
there's this attitude.
There is this attitude, New York and Los Angeles actually refer to the Midwest as flyover land.
Right.
It's what you fly over.
Yeah.
But as I said at the beginning of our podcast, Charles, it's your audience.
Right.
So if you wanted to, you're not going to make your money back making a movie if your only audience is who lives in LA and who lives in New York City.
Right.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You need the rest of America as your audience. And that's why bands worth their salt go to other towns,
Yeah. So I think, needless to say, this movie is a very underrated movie.
I think it's
And
very underrated. Yeah, because it's not.
obviously, look at us. I mean, we haven't. This movie's been out for 22 years, and we are
And we
just
just
now
did it. Yeah.
getting around to it. So yeah,
But it's such a seeming. It sounds like such oil and water
right,
because Disney doesn't appeal to the David Lynch crowd, and David Lynch doesn't appeal to the Disney crowd.
right.
So, but
This is where the two could meet, in in this
these are.
this nice little happy medium.
This is the peanut butter and chocolate of film right here that you did not expect.
This is the Reese's peanut butter cup of cinema.
Yeah, who put Disney in my David Lynch movie?
Right.
Oh my God, this is amazing.
You got your David Lynch in my, or your Disney in my David Lynch. What is that?
You got your David Lynch in my Disney.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then of course now we all love it because this was really, really a fantastic movie.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen it, if hopefully we've convinced you to check this movie out.
Definitely, it is on Disney Plus.
It's on Disney Plus, yeah. Because I was very happy for that. Because hey, it's a Disney movie, right? So I looked it up, and sure enough, it was there. And I told Zan, I'm like, you got to check it out. It's on Disney Plus.
Yep.
So go check it out, guys. If you haven't seen it, it's worth it.
And on the DVD release has no chapters.
Right.
Because David Lynch doesn't want you skipping to certain scenes. He wants you watching the whole thing in order. And I think that's adorable. I love that.
Yeah. That's who he is. All right. We didn't get ghost mail again, but no Ghostwood mail. But I didn't expect a mail for this one, to be quite honest. But
no, that's true.
Still a little disappointed. But if you want to reach us, we'd love to hear from you. So write to us, ghostwoodpodcast@gmail.com. That's ghostwoodpodcast@gmail.com. Or you can find us on Twitter @GhostwoodCast on Twitter, Ghostwood Twin Peaks Podcast on the Facebook, or I guess anywhere else you want to find us. Like you could find, hey Zan, where can they find you?
Facebook is Xan Sprouse, and Twitter and Instagram is Udinax19. And if you want to hear Charles and I talk more about movies we love when we're drunker, you can listen to us on Drunk Cinema.
Right, please do.
And if you want to hear me talk more about Oscar facts and Oscar-winning movies, listen to me with Rachel Friend and DJ Nick on Gold Standard The Oscars podcast.
Yeah, you definitely want to check that out as well, because Xan is fabulous on that. So
it's easy to be fabulous when you're talking about fabulous movies.
This is true.
So, what about you, Charles? Where can we find you?
Well, of course, me @Charles Skaggs on Twitter, @Charles Skaggs on Facebook, and Instagram @Charles Skaggs. Or you can find me on my blog of Geeky Things. Come on, you.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
Damn good coffee and hot. We're talking about all the stuff we talk about here on Ghostwood. So Twin Peaks, David Lynch movies, all kinds of comic book sci-fi news of my other podcasts for the Southgate Media Group, including, Drunk Cinema with a certain Xan Sprouse. Maybe you've heard of her.
Yeah, baby.
Where we just got done talking Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan.
Yes, we did.
Which was very interesting and a lot of fun. And I'm sad that Xan got sick afterward, but it's an occupational hazard, apparently, with Drunk Cinema.
It's some stuff, that Romulan ale.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. And then next we're going to be talking, because it's our 7th episode coming up, as in 007. We're going to be talking the James Bond classic Goldfinger.
Yes,
so
we are.
We want to check that out because it's Goldfinger. Come on. It's Sean Connery.
Hey, if you grew up loving Chitty Chitty Bang Bang,
right,
you'll probably like this movie.
Because for one thing, Ian Fleming.
Kurt Proby is in both of them.
And Ian Fleming wrote both, by the way.
Ian Fleming wrote both.
He wrote the books. Yeah, he wrote the book Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. So a lot of people don't know that.
No, that's an interesting little factoid.
Yep.
Ian Fleming is not just spies and ladies and beverages.
Exactly, but
he's also child kidnapping in Flying Cars.
Yeah. Anyway.
Oh, I have to tell you. I'll tell you this story briefly, Charles. And I'll tell it again on for a Drunk Cinema list. My friend Sarah wasn't sure if she wanted to show her kids Chitty Chitty Bang Bang because of the child kidnapper.
Yeah, right.
And her husband had never seen the movie, and he's like, "Well, tell me more about this character." And she explains it to him. He's like, let's show this to our kids. I want them to be afraid of people like that. I want them to be scared.
I want them to be traumatized. Yeah.
He's he's like, no, I want them to be afraid of anybody who comes up and says, "Hey, little girl, do you want some ice cream?"
Right.
I want my kids to run. I want them to be scared.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think he's right. I agree with him completely.
Well, that's fair. Also, Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast, where Jesse Jackson and assorted special guest companions like a certain Xan Sprouse will be joining us this coming week to talk Ghostlight from the Sylvester McCoy era, which is perfect for us because, like I was talking with Xan, it's like, well, who better to discuss one of the weirdest Doctor Who stories ever than Team Ghostwood?
Ghostwood for Ghostlight, and I did start my
It's Ghostlight Wood.
Yeah.
It's like Ghostlight Wood here.
I didn't start, but I did spend a brief period in my college years as a theater major, so, Ghostlight
There you
works
go.
for me.
All right.
Yeah.
So you definitely got to check that out, right? So
Yeah.
check us out there. And then the Phantom Zone podcast, where DJ Nick, Jesse Jackson, and I currently going through WandaVision, which has been amazing, you guys. We're just about to wrap it up. We only got 2 more episodes to go, but it looks to be a very, very fascinating conclusion to this series.
Are you the ones that killed Sparky?
Yes. It was Phantom Zone
It was
all
all
along.
along.
Yep, exactly.
Stop everywhere all along.
Yeah, with a great nod to the Addams Family and the Munsters as well.
Oh yeah, and a little bit of Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Yeah, a little bit. And then obviously we're going to be doing, we're going to talk The Falcon and the Winter Soldier after that. So stay tuned for that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
With a little bit of Superman and Lois for 1 week only in between because the Superman and Lois pilot was surprisingly good. So I definitely recommend checking that out.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that just because I'm a big Superman geek.
Who has that?
CW.
CW, okay.
But thankfully, it's not like the typical CW superhero show on a budget. They actually put some money on this a little bit, and it shows. There's actual cinematography in this one, believe it or not. It's worth
So
checking.
they basically took all of their supernatural money and now they put it into this.
Yeah, pretty much, and it shows.
Yeah.
It looks fabulous. It looks really good.
Okay.
Really, really good. Worth a look. Check it out. Highly recommended. All right. So next time on Ghostwood, episode 94. So I was thinking, are we going to discuss On the Air next?
I was thinking Charles Wahoo Uhet and Orhans, meaning we have a hit on our hands. So I think we should discuss the first, at least the first episode of On the Air.
Okay. Well, we might as well discuss all 3 because they're only half hour each, 20 minutes each.
Well, didn't we say that about the soundtracks and we had to split those? Let's see what happens. Let's see how far we get.
Well, the reason, the first episode definitely because it's directed by David Lynch.
Mm-hmm.
So that's right in our wheelhouse, obviously.
Yeah.
So we can discuss the first episode. We'll go with that then.
Let's start with the first episode and then the second, because there's so many things that are culturally relevant about all 3 of them.
Okay.
The first one being 50s television in general.
Okay.
And the various comedy tropes that don't necessarily play very well these days.
Right.
The idea that foreigners are just funny because they sound funny.
Yeah.
And then we have the second episode that is about quiz shows, which was a very big deal in the 50s.
Yes, it was.
A lot of controversy and Senate inquiries, things like that. And not just quiz shows, but rigged quiz shows.
Yes.
And we have that in this one as well.
Right.
And then, of course, the third episode is one of the funniest things you've ever seen on television.
That's why I thought you'd want to talk all 3 because you said the third one is the best.
It is, but I think we should do an episode for each episode. Charles.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. So this will be a 3-parter is what you're saying.
A 3-parter, yes.
Okay. All right. Well, that works. That works fine. That's okay.
Yeah.
So we'll do the first episode of On the Air for episode 94, then followed by 95 and 96 for the other 2. Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah.
I think that's a plan.
Let's go with it. Yeah. Because even though they're half an hour episodes, you and I could talk for 2 hours on all of the episodes.
Well, we talk about for 2 hours about nothing, really.
I could talk for 2 hours about Ted Cruz being marooned on an island.
We're essentially the Seinfeld of podcasts, you guys.
We can have a conversation about just about anything, and I will bring it back to either a Twin Peaks quote, a Simpsons quote, or a Batman '89 quote.
Right.
I'll find some way.
And I'll be right there with you. With maybe like a Superman quote thrown in, or something else. Ghostbusters.
Yeah, or some sort of Doctor Who reference.
Doctor Who reference, definitely. Yeah, exactly.
That's how our brains work, people. We are, as Mark Hamill once said, that nerds are save the most money on therapy because we're so in tune with our inner children.
And who are we to argue with Mark Hamill? Let's face
No,
it.
you don't. Why would you argue with him?
Yeah, exactly.
There's nothing to argue about.
There's nothing to argue about. It's
Speaking,
argument's already over, but without you even realizing it.
Mark Hamill or his cousin Luke Skywalker, as they say on the Muppet Show, which by the way, it's on Disney Plus now.
I know. I'm trying to I'm trying to block out 30 minutes of my busy life so I can watch that episode finally.
Okay, whatever you're doing after this podcast, if
Yes.
you're eating or something like that, eat in front of the TV and at least watch the Christopher Reeve episode.
Oh, I know. That's one of the things we want to watch, but
because that was the first one I watched because seasons 1 through 3
right.
are available on DVD.
4 and 5 aren't.
4 and 5 aren't, and
but they're on Disney Plus now. Yeah.
Christopher Reeve is season 5.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend doing that.
Yeah, I definitely want. That's one of the things I want to do. I've been dying to. I just can't find the time. But I need to make the time.
I did. Remember after Drunk Cinema last week, I said I was going to make wings?
Right. That's what you did. You made wings. And
what do you think I did while I was eating the wings?
Well, that's probably why you got sick, I'm guessing.
No, 32 ounces of straight liquor is going to make anybody sick. They weren't even hot. They were just, they were seasoned salt and Old Bay dry rub. They weren't even hot wings.
Okay.
It was just chicken.
All right.
No, and trust me, this was blue curacao.
And this is why we could fill up 2 hours of a podcast. No problem.
This is how we can fill up 2 hours on a half-an-hour show.
Exactly.
Charles, you talk about WandaVision every week, right? That takes about an hour and a half.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
For a half-an-hour episode. So yeah, see?
Yeah.
And this show is way funnier than WandaVision.
So what you're telling me is I'm long-winded, is what you're telling me.
No, I'm just telling you, don't be shocked when I say, Charles, I don't think we can fit 3 episodes into one podcast. Even if they are just 30-minute episodes.
Well, if we could talk a movie in one of those, we should be able to, theoretically, if we could talk a movie in that same amount of time, we should be able to do 3 episodes.
We couldn't even do 2 soundtracks in one episode. So we have a lot of things to say.
Well, it deserved the attention, I think.
And we have on the air, we have 3 fantastic actors who are no longer with us.
Yeah, Ian Buchanan Ian's still with us, isn't he?
David Lander.
David Lander, of course, yes.
Miguel Ferrer,
right.
And Tracy Walter.
Oh, that's true. I forgot he passed.
Yeah.
That was pretty recently, too, if I recall correctly.
It's been a while.
Oh, has it?
Yeah.
Well, let me think. I don't know. All right.
We have Squiggy, we have Albert Rosenfeld, and we have Bob. And there's my Batman '89 reference.
There you go.
All right, we can be done, Charles. Let's stop the tape. We're done.
All right. Okay. So you heard her, everybody. So next time on the air, the first episode of the pilot episode of that, episode 94, right here on Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.